This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Going to continue to have fun talking Cardinals baseball with Katie Wu from The Athletic. And Katie, maybe I shouldn't have put it in those terms. We're going to have fun because it's not very fun covering the Cardinals right now. It is a disastrous season. I was going to say start to the season, but in the middle of June, it's no longer the start to the season. And, man, I don't know anybody that could have imagined that the season would have gone the direction that it's going right now, especially somebody that covered a team that got into the playoffs last year. How are you doing today outside of having to cover a team that finds ways to lose games?
Yeah, guys. Well, I'm well. I'm not sure much of Cardinals Nation can say the same at the moment. Certainly, after playing 67 games, you wouldn't think the Cardinals would have lost 40 of them, but that's the reality of where we are on June 13th, 2023. So happy to be talking with you guys. Wish I had a little bit more positive things to say, but it is what it is.
It is what it is, and right now it's a bad team, and I've seen this with a lot of other teams before, but I haven't seen this with a St. Louis Cardinals team in forever, literally forever. I describe a team like this as a Thomas Edison of baseball. It's like they invent a new way to lose every day, and I see, you write a couple of days ago about a 4-3 loss to the Reds, and there's a quote: "We lose in different ways every game," and right now St. Louis is the Thomas Edison of baseball in the negative way.
Yeah, I completely agree. When you have players and you are a team that finds ways to lose in a different way every game, to me, that is the most common denominator in bad teams. It's not like you can look at this Cardinals team and identify one single area that's underperformed or one single reason why they're losing games. It is truly a collective effort. And that is, to me, when you're evaluating teams, signs of just a bad team. If you are losing in different ways, if you can string your pitching together for a couple of days but your offense falls apart, if your offense catches fire but then your bullpen can't hold a lead, if you're poor on fundamentals or making mistakes on the base paths, whatever it is, if you're losing because of a culmination of those things and not just because of one particular factor, that's usually a sign that you're a bad team. And we have seen that from the Cardinals really since opening day.
You know what? It's more than just losing Yachty, but when you lose somebody when you lose the catcher that's the cornerstone of the franchise for 20 years, and then the guy that you go and sign, I was just beside myself at what happened. This was 3 weeks ago. The whole Contreras isn't going to catch for us anymore, and then he is going to catch for him a few days later. I felt like there's been I don't know if the word would be scapegoat in some cases, but it's just been very odd, some of the communication to the media from the front office and from Marmol, like how he called Edman out, the second game of the year. I just thought, wow, we're calling players out of the second game of the season already. It's a long year. And the thing with Contreras kind of fit into that. I've been scratching my head about how the powers and the executives and the manager has communicated to the media.
Well, I think what you're seeing is an organization that truly does not know how to overcome the deficit that they're in. And that's a testament to the organization, right? The Cardinals don't lose. And when they do have losing seasons, it's never 12, 13, 14 games under 500. John Mozeliak has never had a losing season in his tenure as either GM or president of baseball operations. Ollie Marmol, I know he's only in his second year as manager, but he's been with this organization for nearly 2 decades. Adam Wainwright has been here just as long as anybody. He's never experienced a season like this. So when you are completely new in a situation that is not ideal, there are 2 ways to respond. And the Cardinals are responding as in they don't know what to do, and it is making things worse. I mean, I think John Mozeliak, in a conversation I had with him last week, was honest. And he said, right now we're not quite sure how to get out of this. And I appreciate the honesty, but at some point, this organization is going to have to figure a way to get out of this. Otherwise, they're staring their most disappointing season in decades straight in the face. But I think the overall mixed messaging, the underperformance, the inability to string together consistent wins, everything that has gone wrong for the Cardinals this season is just a product of this organization not being familiar and losing and not knowing what to do to turn it around.
Yeah, and that's the kind of answer that's not going to satisfy that fan base. There are some fan bases that are so beaten down that they'll just take an answer from whomever. But this is not a team. This is not a franchise that's supposed to ever go into rebuilding mode. And when you hear the guy that's put the team together say we don't know how to get out of this, that almost sounds to me like we might have. They don't have to rebuild the whole thing. But that's just an odd answer too. But maybe he's also being honest about it. Yeah.
No, I don't anticipate the Cardinals doing a full rebuild, but I think there's some solid points here. At June 13th, it's not like the Cardinals can go out and get help externally. If you want to go get and trade someone, no matter what the position is, it's too early for that because those trade markets, the market price has not been set yet. Those things don't get set until the middle of July. So the Cardinals can't force the market to bend at their will. 29 other teams also influence the trade market. So it's not like St. Louis can just say, hey, we're really short, we need some help, let's get these prices moving, let's figure out what the cost for an outfielder, for a starting pitcher, for a reliever, whatever is. It doesn't work like that. They do have to figure out what they're finding out or what they have internally. They do have to figure out if they have the pieces that can make it click. And if they end up losing games and they're in a losing position by July, could I see them selling, which is, I know, pretty unfathomable in St. Louis? I could. But that doesn't mean that they're rebuilding. At some point, the Cardinals have to stop the bleeding for 2023 and focus on salvaging 2024 and 2025. And they can do that by selling but not rebuilding. The Cardinals do have a lot of key pieces, especially some young, under-control talent for the next X amount of years that other teams would like to build around. So if they get to that point where they look internally over the next month and they have not been able to turn things around, they haven't been able to figure it out, they can then go set the market price themselves and stop the bleeding for 2023 and put their focus on 2024. I know that is not a popular answer. I know that in March, everyone was talking about repeating as division champions, the Cardinals being the favorites from the division. It's clearly not gone according to script, but I don't anticipate the Cardinals doing a full rebuild. I do think that selling is much more on the table than in years prior.
So if you're selling and you're selling some of the older players in that case, would you envision maybe selling off of the pitching staff? Because, it's a franchise right now that has struggled to develop pitching, but you do have some guys that have had success that are a little bit older, like a Michaelis. I don't know if anybody's going to buy on Steven Matz. You're not going to send Wainwright anywhere, but could you see somebody like Michaelis or maybe Montgomery heading somewhere else?
No, I don't see Michaelis going anywhere. I think they signed him for that 2-year extension for a reason. Jordan Montgomery and Jack Flaherty are both free agents at the end of the year. Jordan Montgomery is a Scott Boras client. So even if he's not publicly stated, what he wants to do after 2023, but historically speaking, Scott Boras encourages his clients to test the free agent waters for the first time in their careers. That's what Jordan's looking to do. It would be very shocking if he doesn't heed the advice of his agent. So I do think that the Cardinals, if they find themselves in a position to sell, could look at their rotation. Jack Flaherty's had a really good last month or so. He's kind of formed into that number 2, a guy that they thought that he could be. Jordan Montgomery's been pretty solid for them as well. Starting pitching statistically is of highest demand, especially looking at this trade deadline and the types of pitchers that are going to be available. I think you can trade a mid-tier, mid-rotation starter and get a pretty hefty return because there just isn't a lot of starting pitching available. I would look, if I'm looking at the Cardinals, I'm looking to see, hey, what's Jack Flaherty's price? What's Jordan Montgomery's price? They're going to be free agents at the end of the year anyway. Maybe we can go out and build something from there if they do decide to sell.
I want to ask you your opinion on how the team is run and how the team on the field is run and maybe where the influence from the front office might come from. You heard Buck Showalter the other day sort of admit he doesn't decide what the lineup looks like. There's kind of a whole process that goes into how the lineup is going to look based upon how some of Showalter's bosses feel about things. And, of course, that's all chewed through computers and through analysis and analytics and all of that sort of thing. The Cardinals have this history now of hiring managers that haven't had experience as a major league manager. I believe it's 3 in a row now. Who makes the lineup for this team? Who are making the decisions for this team? Is it always Marmol or is there something else behind this?
No, Ollie Marmol and Joe McEwing make the lineup every game. Obviously, there's a lot of input that goes in from the staff as a whole, but the front office is very hands-off on the on-field playing time production. They're obviously Mo and Ollie are going to have conversations, but I think it's very important that the front office, and the front office feels this way, is hands off and lets the coaching staff handle the everyday lineup, who's playing. Now, of course, the front office is going to handle the roster, but once that 26-man roster is finalized, they're hands off, and it's up to Ollie Marmol and his coaching staff to figure out the best 9 for each game. I will say Joe McEwing spends an extensive amount of time prepping for each lineup, and him and Ollie work together almost every day in assembling it. But this is not one that's, here's the front office 9 typed out on the computer, Ollie, go run it out. That lineup is under his control every game.
It's a team that must feel like they're just under an amazing amount of pressure on a daily basis, because it's a quote that Marmol gave you that you put in one of your recent pieces in The Athletic. It feels like we have to be perfect to win on a daily basis. Any baseball team that goes into, and it's a day-to-day thing, you know that. When you feel that over your head, and it's the same in an interpersonal relationship, it's the same at work every day. If you feel like you have to be perfect in order to succeed on a daily basis, you are not going to succeed. But that's where the Cardinals are. That's where they are, and you can hear the frustration every time Marmol speaks after a game. You can read it in the quotes too, and you can see the frustration in these games. Nobody can be perfect, but this team obviously feels like they have to be.
Yeah, and that's not a recipe for success in any organization, especially in professional sports. It's a combination of many things, and I think the common theme of playing perfect baseball on Sunday after they lost to the Reds was heard from the manager, it was heard from Nolan Arenado, and it was heard from Adam Wainwright. And when you have a team that is so far under expectations and just playing really at sometimes unwatchable baseball, you feel the pressure naturally. But this is also, I know we talk a lot about Paul Goldschmidt and Nolan Arenado and their leadership. That aside, it's a pretty young core. So when you have a mixture of young players, rookies, guys in their second year, who feel the pressure to perform every day or their job's at risk, you have your big free agent acquisition in Wilson Contreras feeling like he has to perform every day because statistically, guys in their first year of their free agent contracts usually underperform because of the pressure. And then you have your MVP candidates from last year feeling like they have to play perfectly because nobody else is. Well, that's just a recipe to how to lose 40 games in your first third of the season. So I think when the Cardinals say that we feel like we have to play perfect baseball, that's a completely honest thought that they have. And we can see it because when you are going out there and you're pressing for so many different areas, both personally, both from a team perspective, because you want to stop the skid, because no one else is producing, so you feel like you have to, you're just not going to win a lot of games, and you're going to see a lot of mistakes happen. And once the Cardinals make one mistake, it certainly seems like the opposing team capitalizes on it immediately. It is a perfect storm of badness, is what I like to call it, and you're seeing it almost every night at Busch Stadium.
BetOnline is your #1 source for all your championship finals info, stats, news, and scores. Get the latest odds and the latest matchup reports for this year's NBA and Stanley Cup Finals. BetOnline is your sports intel headquarters this season, as we have you covered for all your insider sports wagering needs, from baseball and hockey to MLB, UFC, and boxing. The fastest and easiest way to get all your betting info, including live betting options and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your home. Get in the action today. Head over to our website or use your mobile device to join, and be sure to use our promo code BELIEVE to receive 50% bonus on your first deposit. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.